There's the struggle. It's called the struggle, right? You're always going to be struggling. There's always a struggle. Everyone has one. I've got one. You've got one. I've shared a little bit about mine. I don't never usually share it about them, and I don't all the time on social media. And so that's the thing, is like everyone's struggling with something. You just don't know about it, right? So everyone's struggling with something. So when it comes down to communication with people, like customer service, everyone's got a problem. Everyone's got an issue. Everyone's got their own perspective. And if you only see the world in one direction from your perspective, you're missing out on helping tons of people. You're missing out on what is that one thing this other person in front of you just needs to hear or see or be forgiven for, so that they can have an opportunity to succeed, because maybe there's some other shit going on in their life and you have no idea about it. And they would never tell you, right? Because they would only tell 2 or 3 people. But they're struggling, and that's why they're late, or that's why they don't show up, or that's why, they can't get the information out of their head in a clear way. It's because they've got so many things going on, they haven't had a chance to talk about it and synthesize the ideas. Everyone is. And then the other side is you feel like you're alone and isolated because you're going through this pain or this process, whether it's growing your business or financial stress or relationship stress. Everyone's struggling with something. You just don't know. And then when someone tells you their struggles, you don't always have to tell them what yours are. All you got to do is acknowledge that life is hard. It's really number one thing people want to hear is that, yeah, life is hard. I see you. You're doing great. And that's the thing. But that's the struggle. So there's the problems and the struggle, right? People struggle with success. We talked about that. And struggle with like being like privileged, like having it too good and wanting to do it on their own. I mean, there's a lot of things on their own. They struggle with their health. I mean, look, I've had 2 concussions this year. Not that great. Hadn't helped me in a lot of ways. Relationships, right? People struggle with relationships. People struggle with belief in themselves, their product, what they're doing. You're trying to do something and almost like you're forcing it and you don't quite believe, or you don't believe you're as good as people say, or, maybe that's like imposter syndrome, or confidence, like you don't have confidence in your skills. Some of these things are because, the negative stuff sticks and the positive reinforcement just kind of, that's why I start a lot of my coaching calls. We start our team meetings with wins. We start our coaching calls with wins, so that we can kind of be reminded of the good we're doing in the world, right? The bigger your bank account grows, the more impact, you're making in the world. People struggle with confidence, shame, fear of success, fear of failure. Ego is a bitch sometimes. Okay, so imposter syndrome is like this, who am I to possibly teach about X, Y, and Z? You know what? Just because there are people that know more about it or are more academically minded doesn't mean that you can't share with the world, because people are going to connect with you. Okay, I have imposter syndrome sometimes. Man, but it didn't bother me. Like, it didn't keep me from doing things like this. And I'm like, who am I to have, 50 people come to Greensboro to work with me for the weekend? Like, that's a big shoes to fill. It's exactly how I felt about 2 months ago when our Platinum Mastermind members came here to Greensboro. I still felt like that, right? Like, who am I to do this? But they're not here for me. That's the funny thing. And that's something I've learned this year, is like, people aren't here for me. I'm just the facilitator. I'm the communicator of the information that was really hard for me to find. And hopefully it's easier for you to find. Okay, so as you're seeing, like, these things, these create problems. This is the problem with success. These things get in your way of success. If you don't have the belief, you won't be successful. If you lack confidence, how are you going to teach and share and sell? If you have shame or fear around something, like, it starts to paralyze you. I can't say you have to get rid of it, but like, we got to deal with it, manage it, figure some of these things out, take some of the layers back. Right? I just watched 8 Mile with Eminem, right? And he's doing these rap battles. If you haven't seen this, you got to see this. But how does Eminem win the rap battle? Well, the first couple times, he when the other guy, goes first, he can come back at him. Well, the last time he's rapping against Papa Doc, Anthony Mackie, who played, he was in the Marvel. He was not Captain America, but the guy with the wings on his back. But he's Papa Doc. I was like, oh, Papa Doc. Okay. But he's rapping against him, and all they're doing is cutting each other down in their raps, right? He gets up there, and so Eminem has to go first. And all he's doing is, he's like, I live in a trailer. I'm poor white trash. Someone else is sleeping with my girl, blah, blah, blah. My friend shot himself. I got a black eye. Blah. And he just he just took away all of his ammunition. He's just saying, hey, look at me. I am imperfect. But you know what? It took a lot of, there's a lot of fear in that. And he had to overcome all this fear and shame to be able to say, hey, look at me. I'm not perfect. And Papa Doc had nothing to say. He was like, you got me, basically, And so when you can overcome these things, then they become your superpower.